I'm an orphan. My family, including the entire village, was lost in a landslide. My father, at the critical moment, shoved me under the bed, thus saving me from the disaster. Perhaps because the whole village was sacrificed, heaven bestowed all their luck upon me. So at the age of 10, I was quickly adopted by a wealthy businessman and unexpectedly lived the pampered life of a young master. I also had a genuine heiress sister, 3 months younger than me. The first time I arrived at the Lu's mansion, I was stunned by its grandeur. The courtyard alone was larger than the area of our contracted farmland. The house was teeming with servants, and the interior decoration was luxurious. I even had my own suite. The room's decorations were clearly designed specifically for me, and the closet was full of new clothes and shoes that were all mine. Looking at the Transformers-themed bed, I felt like I had stepped into a Grimm's fairy tale. It was so unreal. My father had told me before he died that there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. If there is, it means you have something valuable that they covet, that they're scheming something from you. This was a lesson he taught me from his own experience. When I was 5 years old, a classmate he hadn't contacted in a long time suddenly reached out to him, treating him to meals, giving him gifts. For 3 months, they were as close as brothers who hadn't seen each other in years. But it turned out to be a labyrinth trap. That classmate swindled my father out of yuan under the guise of investment. Yuan in the early S. Yuan was a huge sum of money. My father was a truck driver. His salary was high, but he worked very hard. Most of that money had been saved over many years, money he was planning to use to buy his own truck and start his own business. The rest of the money he borrowed, so our family's standard of living plummeted. But I racked my little brains, but couldn't figure out what they wanted from me. It couldn't be because I was good-looking, right? My appearance basically came from my mother. My mother was very beautiful. She grew up with my father in the same village, in the same class, childhood sweethearts in the truest sense. Even though my father was just a truck driver, my mother had liked him since she was little, and my father also liked my mother, and my mother didn't want to marry far away after graduating from college. She volunteered to return to the village as a teacher. One reason was to make it easier to take care of my father, and the other was to tutor me. Therefore, my grades. That's right, uncle and aunt must have seen my good grades. Because after my family was scammed, I became exceptionally sensible, and I studied very proactively and diligently. Plus my mother's patient tutoring, I basically got full marks in all subjects on every grade level test. And on my first day, uncle and aunt had a heart-to-heart talk with me. They told me to turn grief into strength, to study even harder in order to repay my parents in heaven. Of course, they also said that they would hire famous tutors for me and support me without reservation. At that moment, I instantly understood that since they valued my good grades and studying was already my strength, then I definitely wouldn't let them down. Therefore, I studied even harder. I lived in this family for 2 years. My family had experienced 2 setbacks, and in the last one, even the closest relatives were gone. So I became even more sensible. And the family that took me in was so wealthy. My monthly allowance plus the rewards that Father Kenji and Mother Akiko gave me after exams amounted to tens of thousands of yuan. That was my father's hard-earned monthly salary back then. But I didn't become arrogant or spoiled just because I was good at studying. In this family, I was still cautious and careful, afraid of making mistakes. When I first arrived, I was a bit inferior and rather taciturn. There were many things in the house that I had never seen before, so I had made a lot of laughable mistakes. Akiko always laughed at me for being a country bumpkin. I knew that she was the real owner, and Father Kenji and Mother Akiko ed on her extremely. I instinctively knew I couldn't offend her, so I would always give a silly, good-natured smile. When she bullied me, I would always swallow my anger and never complain. There was no other reason, because Mr. and Mrs. Lu were very good to me, and they never let me do any housework at home. I only needed to focus on my studies and incidentally protect Akiko. Uncle and aunt said it was incidental, but I knew it was imperative to protect her. Mr. and Mrs. Lu were a bit old, at least much older than my parents, but their daughter was the same age as me, which meant Lu Akiko was a daughter they had after great difficulty. This was indeed the case. After learning their true intentions, in the first year of junior high school, I voluntarily requested to learn Taekwondo and various combat skills. Initially, Mr. and Mrs. Lu did not agree. It seemed they wouldn't agree to anything that would affect my studies. Mr. Liu even said they had a gym at home, and if I wanted to exercise in my spare time, he could hire a personal trainer to teach me at home. I said that this would allow me to better protect Akiko, and Mr. and Mrs. Liu were both moved when they heard this. But they still insisted that they had bodyguards, and that practicing those things would take up too much study time. But what about at school? I countered. Liu Akiko's grades were average, and she was very playful and loved to cause trouble. In 6th grade, she had an argument with a male classmate who, out of anger, picked up a pin and tried to stab her in the face. Luckily, I intervened in time and blocked the attack with my hand. Otherwise, Liu Akiko would have been disfigured. Of course, the pin tip also pierced the back of my hand, and blood flowed freely, but I endured the sharp pain and beat up that male classmate. Then I picked him up and carried him to the podium, warning all the students that this would be the consequence for anyone who dared to bully Liu Akiko. The students looked at the male classmate covered in blood and me with a handful of blood, and their eyes were filled with fear. Liu Akiko then walked triumphantly onto the podium, kicked the male classmate, and verbally humiliated him. This matter caused too much of a stir, but fortunately, Mr. and Mrs. Liu had the means to suppress it. So, after I questioned Mr. and Mrs. Liu this time, they remained silent because bodyguards couldn't enter the school, and they didn't want something similar to happen again. They agreed. It was also because of this that I realized that no matter how well I studied, it could never compare to a single strand of Akiko's hair. But I wasn't jealous. Without Mr. and Mrs. Liu, I wouldn't have such a good learning environment and such top-notch educational resources. My parents' expectation of me was to become successful, and if they hadn't adopted me, I don't know where I would be working and studying part-time. It was also because this time I took the initiative to learn Taekwondo and combat skills, the reason being to better protect Liu Akiko. It may have moved Mr. and Mrs. Liu, and coupled with the fact that my grades were even better than they had hoped for, so they held a grand ceremony for me and formally adopted me as their godson. I also changed my address and called them Mom and Dad. This Mom and Dad came from the bottom of my heart, but I didn't want to change my surname because I wasn't an orphan by birth, but rather because natural and man-made disasters had made me an orphan, and in the end, my life was saved by my father. I still had to carry on the family line for my parents so that future generations could sweep their graves during Qingming Festival. But just as I was uneasy and didn't know how to refuse, they didn't ask me to change my surname. Therefore, I felt that they deserved my heartfelt gratitude even more. In addition to studying, I would also take better care of Liu Akiko. I would treat her affairs very seriously. I would follow her around like a devoted servant, fearing that she would have any accidents or be bullied. Of course, all of this was worthwhile, because since the incident in 6th grade, Liu Akiko had regarded me as her hero. Besides continuing to tease me, she never called me a country bumpkin or anything like that again. We went to and from school together like real siblings. I could enter Liu Akiko's room whenever I wanted, and she could come to my room just as freely. Sometimes when there was thunder and rain, or when she was upset, or after watching a scary movie, she wouldn't go to our parents. Instead, she'd insist on sleeping in my room with me. Liu's parents didn't mind us at all. They didn't stop it. They even often actively asked me to go to her room to tutor her. Sometimes we'd work on homework until late, and if I accidentally fell asleep on her bed, it was no big deal. After all, she often ran to my room to sleep with me. I think Liu's parents really did treat us like true siblings, and I really liked that feeling because it was a real family. Akiko was my little sister, after all. But it was precisely because of that time in 6th grade when I stood up for her that Liu Akiko gradually began to become arrogant at school, even starting to bully classmates subtly, gaining the momentum of a school bully. This was wrong. I talked to her. I threatened her that if she continued like this, I wouldn't help her anymore, and I would tell our parents. She did restrain herself quite a bit. After all, what kid isn't afraid of their parents? I thought she would get better. In addition to the tutor, I also patiently tutored her, but this situation didn't last long. In her repeated attempts to test me and push my limits, my paper tiger facade crumbled. She then realized I was just a paper tiger. Just like before, even if she bullied me, I wouldn't tell on her, so she started teasing me again. But thankfully, she didn't bully others like that anymore. However, her troublemaking nature hadn't changed at all. One time, during a class cleanup, I had to do her assigned area in addition to my own. She followed me around to help, so I asked her to take out the trash. 10 minutes or so later, a classmate ran over and told me that a group of thugs had surrounded Lu Akiko and were going to beat her up. I was so scared that I dropped the tools in my hand and ran downstairs towards the school's garbage dump. At that moment, I felt extremely regretful for letting her go to throw out the trash alone. When I ran to the garbage area behind a small garden, I saw a group of punks with dyed hair surrounding her. Without asking why, not caring that there were more of them, not caring that they were a few years older than me, I rushed over and kicked one of them flying with a flying kick. Before they could react, I had knocked another one down. They all retreated a few steps, looking at me with fierce eyes. I took Lu Akiko's hand and warned them that if anyone dared to touch her again, I would beat them so badly they couldn't take care of themselves. Someone sneered, feeling very embarrassed, saying that I was trying to be a hero without knowing my own strength, and pulled out a dagger to stab me. I quickly let go of Lu Akiko and rushed forward, charging straight towards his knife. The guy was a bit stunned. Taking advantage of his daze, I directly grabbed the blade with my right hand and twisted it away. Then I sent him flying 2 meters away with a flying knee kick, and the bloody knife ended up in my hand. Holding the blade, there was no need to think about it. It would definitely cut me, but I didn't care, because from the moment they pulled out the knife, I knew I had to fight with my life, because if I lost, they would definitely hurt Lu Akiko. So I had to display an aura of fearlessness so they would never dare to cause trouble for Lu Akiko again. Blood dripping from my hand, I tossed the knife into the air, caught it by the handle, and held it in my hand. I scanned everyone with hawk-like eyes, and they were completely subdued, standing still and not daring to move. Then I stepped forward, grabbed the guy on the ground by the collar, and stabbed the knife into the ground next to his ear. Everyone was shocked, and Lu Akiko screamed in fright. Of course, the guy on the ground also peed his pants in fear. I stood up, walked to Lu Akiko's side, and took her hand with my blood-free left hand, and we walked away. I just thought students would skip class by climbing out through the trash pit, but I never imagined people from outside school could climb in through there. It was my fault. I won't let you take out the trash anymore, I said, still shaken, thinking that my 2 years of training hadn't been for nothing. Lu Akiko didn't say anything, still seemed shocked by what had just happened, walking along with me like a puppet on strings. I didn't take her back to the classroom, but directly to the infirmary. My hand was bleeding. The infirmary teacher cleaned my wound and had someone call the head of the school affairs office. They took photos, asked what happened, and then sent me straight to the hospital for stitches. That's when Lu Akiko started crying while looking at my hand. I touched her head and smiled, telling her it was okay. She hugged me and cried. The teachers all knew we were siblings, so they weren't surprised by her actions. Lu's parents also rushed to the hospital to see me. They put pressure on the school and the police. Within 3 hours of the incident, everyone had been arrested. Under interrogation, they learned that when Lu Akiko was throwing out trash, she accidentally tossed it onto someone's head. They didn't hit her. They just wanted her to apologize. She refused and had a classmate call me for backup, and I, without asking any questions, directly KO'd them. I was a little embarrassed. It turned out we were the ones at fault. Fortunately, they had brandished a knife, and Lu's parents seized on that point to have the police detain them. This half-sister of mine is just too much trouble. Luckily, she has a powerful set of parents. Junior high school graduation exam. I got into the top key high school with the highest overall score in the city. Lu's parents spent a lot of money to make Lu Akiko my classmate. Watching her look out of place with all the straight-A students in the class, I felt a pang of heartache. I couldn't help but resent that she had such good educational resources. Why couldn't she put that effort into studying? Because the students in the class always saw us hanging around together, they assumed we were a couple. They couldn't understand how a class of top students could be dating a slacker. Was it just because Lu Akiko was pretty? But the top students were good-looking too. Wouldn't a top student have plenty of beautiful girls to choose from in college? For the first 2 months, this question only existed in their minds. Later, after everyone got to know each other better, the questioning started to spread. I wanted to clarify that we were just siblings, but Lu Akiko wouldn't let me say anything. Of course, if I didn't say anything, someone else would, and that was our junior high school classmates. So everyone understood we were siblings. No wonder we always came and went together. It's just that the sister was dead last in the class while the brother was first in the class. The disparity between siblings was just too great. Actually, Luakiko's grades weren't that bad. If you looked at the whole grade level, with a little effort, she could still get into a regular university. But she was in the honors class here. Everyone was a promising candidate for universities. Her grades just weren't good enough. After she became familiar with the school in the second year of high school, although after the last time when my hand was injured for her again, her troublemaking tendencies were reduced a lot, but she changed her ways, always inexplicably making me compete with this person and that person, compete in basketball, compete in billiards, compete in playing musical instruments, and even compete in playing games. Anyway, she wanted to drag me to compete with others and everything just to prove to others that I was better than all the other boys. But I had the college entrance exam to worry about. I saw how to learn a bunch of things for her sake. There was no way around it. Lou's parents were so rich that they definitely wouldn't need me to take care of them in the future, and the only way I could repay their kindness of raising me was to take care of Luakiko. I could only take the time to learn, take the time to practice, take the time to help her slap the faces of others. Fortunately, my learning ability was super strong, and I was very dedicated, so I rarely disappointed her. And I can't afford to lose either. If I lose, she can be angry for days, finding ways to torture me. It's gotten to the point where I'm a little afraid of her, so I have to study hard. But precisely because of this, I became a popular figure at school, good at studying and amazing at playing, so a lot of girls wrote me love letters. But I didn't read a single one. Not that I didn't want to, but they were all taken away by Luakiko as soon as they arrived. And even my phone was confiscated by her. Even my QQ password was changed. I couldn't even log into my own QQ. Anything sent by teachers on QQ, she would receive and print out for me. I was too lazy to bother. It saved me some useless socializing. In senior year, the pressure to study was high. I really didn't have the energy to attend those messy gatherings she organized. I advised her to restrain herself and focus on studying to prepare for the college entrance exam. But she didn't listen to me at all, instead saying that she was a girl and didn't need to study. She said it was enough for me to study for the family. I was speechless. I suddenly realized that my parents had long seen that she wasn't cut out for studying, which is why they adopted me. She still often sneaks into my bed these days. She has all the characteristics a woman should have. How can we still sleep in the same bed? Even if we were real siblings, it wouldn't be okay, and sometimes in the morning Anyway, it's really awkward. Okay, the main thing is, I don't know why my parents don't do anything about it. How big are their hearts? So, except when it's thundering and raining, I refused to let her get into my bed. This completely angered her. I wouldn't let her, but she insisted, even taking showers in my bathroom. I was speechless and talked to Luakiko's mother about this. Luakiko's mother's reaction was beyond my expectations. She wasn't angry but smiled, and said she would scold Luakiko, and then she said our relationship was really good. Fortunately, Luakiko restrained herself a lot later and only came into my room when it was thundering and raining. In the second semester of senior year, I had to do several practice papers every day, and I canceled all extracurricular activities and training to save time. I discussed renting a teacher's family house at school with my parents. My parents agreed, and Luakiko also moved in. Because there were only 2 bedrooms and a living room, the nanny couldn't live in. She could only come in the morning, noon, and evening to cook for us, clean, and do laundry. It's great to be from a wealthy family. I only have to focus on studying, and Luakiko, having left home, completely let herself go and even had the energy to sneak out to play after evening self-study. I regretted renting the house a little. I didn't have time to be with her. She was out of my sight, and I couldn't ensure safety. She returned my phone to me and repeatedly promised that if anything happened, she would definitely call me immediately. I couldn't help it. I couldn't control her unless I told my parents, but in the end, I didn't tell my parents because I suspected she had a boyfriend. Because I heard a man call her several times, and they were constantly chatting on QQ, and she could always come back within the time I specified. I think first love is very important for girls, so as long as it's not too outrageous, I still don't want to break them up. With only half a month until the college entrance exam, she suddenly called me and said she was being bullied in a bar. Damn it, being bullied in a bar. What kind of place is a bar? Although I've never been there, I know that people in bars are not good people. The thought of Luakiko being bullied in such a place scared me so much that I ran out, stumbling like a headless fly. I hailed a taxi and kept urging the driver to hurry. When I arrived, I saw two groups of people fighting on the opposite side of the road. I quickly threw a yuan bill to the driver and got out of the car and ran across the street. My eyes quickly scanned the scene, pinpointing Luakiko's location. She was struggling to pull someone away, trying to save a man being beaten. I rushed over, pulling Luakiko away and kicking the attacker flying. The man he was hitting, finally free, had barely gotten to his feet when I launched a flying kick, sending him sprawling again. "Hey, don't hit him. We're on the same side," Luakiko shouted, grabbing my arm. "I don't care if he's on the same side. Anyone who brings you to a place like this deserves to be hit," I retorted, taking advantage of her distraction. As she went to help the man, I charged out again, taking down everyone there, friend or foe, making sure no one could escape because I was going to call the police. I was going to notify my parents. Luakiko tried to stop me, but I was resolute. Luakiko glared at me, saying she would never speak to me again if I made that call. I still called the police and notified my parents because this time Luakiko had gone too far. If I didn't tell my parents, I would be betraying them. The police arrived just as my parents did. Seeing the dozen or so people lying on the ground, Lu's father gave me a strange look. "You did all this?" Lu's father asked. "Yeah," I replied. "Naughty dad. He's a violent maniac. He even hit my friends." Luakiko complained from the side. "They brought a high school student like you to a place like this. They're not good people, so they all deserve it," I insisted. You're completely unreasonable," Luakiko said angrily, pointing at me. "Haruto is right. Explain how you ended up here." Lu's father scolded Luakiko. Luakiko fell silent. But it wasn't the time for arguing. After giving our statements at the police station, back home, I told my parents everything about her frequent trips out while staying in the rented apartment. My reasoning was simple. I previously thought she was just wandering around the night market or going on dates with her boyfriend or something because I knew she received a lot of love letters and various signs made me suspect she had a boyfriend, but I hadn't told my parents about that guess. But I never imagined she would be going to bars. I felt this was too serious, and I had to tell my parents. But what I never expected was that this thing, which felt so important to me, Lu's father and mother only reprimanded her a few times, didn't even take away her card, and just verbally forbade her from going out at night, and that was it. I thought to myself, Dad, Mom, at least cut off her finances so she doesn't have money to go wild. Of course, I didn't say these words aloud. Luakiko is a treasure to the Lu family, and no one knows that better than I do. Anyway, I did what I was supposed to do. As for how the adults handle it, that's their business. All this commotion went on until after AM, and I had no energy to bring up anything else. I drafted a scheduled text message to our homeroom teacher requesting leave for tomorrow morning for both Luakiko and me, and then went back to my room to wash up and go to sleep. As soon as I got into bed, Luakiko burst into my room, kicked me a few times, said I betrayed her, and that she would absolutely never talk to me again. The next afternoon, my parents took us to school together, and she ignored me the entire time. Lu's father and mother noticed something was wrong, criticized her a few words, and then told me to appease her. They even joked that this was giving me a chance to practice early for when I got married, to learn how to appease my own wife. But Luakiko has such a spoiled young lady temperament, and she's already going to bars to fool around while still in high school, and you adults don't care. If I had known you wouldn't care, I wouldn't have told you. Now that it's like this, how can I possibly appease her? And I would absolutely never find a wife like that in the future. I can't control her at all. Finding one would only be a burden to myself. She didn't return to the rented apartment that night. I was worried about her, so I called the housekeeper and found out that she had asked the driver to pick her up and take her home. After hanging up the phone, I reflected on the situation. The Lu family was wealthy and influential, and Luakiko was their only daughter. As long as she didn't commit any serious crimes, she would undoubtedly enjoy a life of luxury and wealth. So why should I be so controlling over her and provoke her anger? I realized that as long as she wasn't harmed, I didn't need to interfere in her other affairs, just like her parents' approach to her education. Whether Luakiko was bad at studies or fond of playing, the family could support her. Why be so strict? And going to a bar didn't seem like an unforgivable sin either. Thus, I decided to take the initiative to reconcile with Luakiko and promise that I would never act this way again. She looked at me smugly and even dragged me out to confront the group we fought against last time. This time, the opposing group had clearly come prepared. There were more of them, and they were armed with clubs. Although a few of my friends were with me, they were the same ones whom I had fought alongside last time. So ultimately, I was the only one who truly stepped up. But I didn't feel weak at all. Picking up a baseball bat, I charged forward to take on over a dozen opponents. In such an unequal confrontation, I couldn't show any signs of fear. Showing weakness would certainly lead to disaster. My head was split open, blood flowing freely, and I don't know how many blows I took, but in the end, I was still the one standing. Her friends were shocked at how fierce I was. Luakiko said, with a smug, "How is this, Mrs. Bodyguard?" Her friends immediately began to flatter her with obsequious compliments. Then they got into a van, and Luakiko and I sat in the middle row. Because my head was bleeding, there was a first aid kit in the car. Luakiko was giving my head a simple bandage to stop the bleeding. Because my hand hurt and I needed her help, with my guidance, she managed to bandage it up, just barely. Then the guy who I suspected was Luakiko's boyfriend, sitting in the passenger seat, turned around jealously and said, "Akiko, this bodyguard of yours is indeed impressive, but aren't you afraid he'll tell your parents and rat out what happened today?" "He wouldn't dare. He's my—" Luakiko stopped there, as if the words that followed were hard to say. "Is your what? Is a bodyguard more important than me?" the man said. Hearing this, I thought to myself, he really is her boyfriend. I took a closer look at the man's face. Seeing my expression, Luakiko smiled smugly again and said, "He's just my simp. How could he compare to you?" After speaking, she stared at me. I smiled and didn't say anything, considering it an acknowledgement, because I didn't want her boyfriend to misunderstand anything, especially since I had hit him last time. But when Luakiko saw that I didn't speak, her face changed and she glared at me angrily. Was she implying that I should say something? But what should I say? Just as I was considering what to say, her boyfriend saved me. "Huh, Akiko, aren't you worried that if you call him a simp to his face, he won't simp anymore?" her boyfriend said with a laugh. The reason simps are called simps is because they enjoy simping without any boundaries, Luakiko said, looking at me disdainfully. "He fights so well. Isn't him taking on more than 10 people for me alone just now proof enough that he's really this low?" "That's because you hadn't called him a simp in front of him before," the man countered. Hearing this, Luakiko said to me, "Say it. You're my simp." I'm your simp," I replied quickly. Luakiko was smug again when she heard this. "Then tell him to kneel down and say he's your simp and see if he'll do it," the man said again. I glanced at the man gloomily. This guy was getting revenge for me hitting him last time. Look, he's threatening me with his eyes. "Akiko, do you still dare say he's your simp?" The man quickly pointed at me and said to Luakiko. Luakiko told the driver to stop the car and told me to get out. I got out of the car, and then she actually made me kneel down. Damn it, can't you see it's such an obvious reverse psychology? "I told you to kneel, so kneel," Luakiko roared. I was speechless. I didn't know what kind of disreputable friend she had made in the past 6 months. I regretted renting the house. Under her sharp gaze, I compromised. "Kneel then. My parents spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on me, this non-biological son, every year. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say I'm a simp." So I knelt down. The guy immediately took out his phone and started recording. He first pointed the camera at himself and said, "Everyone look at how my girlfriend Luakiko humiliates her simp. Guys, it's worth learning." Then he pointed the camera at us and said, "Akiko, make him say he's your simp." Before Luakiko could speak, I did as he said. The guy stepped forward, pointed the phone camera at me, slapped my face, and said, "Weren't you arrogant? You even dared to hit me? Pooey, simps deserve to die." He spat at me and kicked me to the ground. Luakiko shouted angrily, "What are you doing?" The guy was startled, quickly turned off the video, and then held up his phone and said, "I'm just helping you establish your authority. My own simp is only allowed to be bullied by me. Get lost," Luakiko said furiously. "Akiko, I'm your boyfriend. You're just a lowly simp. What? I helped you establish your authority, and you're blaming me?" Realizing that Luakiko was angry, the man hurriedly argued. Hit him. Lu Akiko ignored him and said directly to me. I got up. The guy looked at me with some fear. He was about to run away instinctively, but I didn't move. Lu Akiko looked at me in surprise, with a displeased expression, and said, I told you to hit him. Are you going to disobey me again? Hearing this, I didn't know what to say. You two are arguing, and if I hit him, what if you reconcile later? Moreover, this man is vindictive. I already have a headache with Akiko as my sister, and if I get a brother-in-law like that, will I even be able to survive in the Lu family? Seeing that I didn't move, Lu Akiko scolded me a few times, then got into the car and left me and her boyfriend behind, taking everyone else with her. Seeing this, her boyfriend also slipped away. So I walked to the side of the road, hailed a taxi, and went to the hospital myself. I couldn't understand it all the way. After so many years of getting along, I only ratted on her that one time. She wasn't beaten, and she wasn't even financially sanctioned. Was it necessary to make me show my loyalty like this? She has princess syndrome, and I can't disobey her. The way she treats me, I know it's not just about me ratting on her that one time. There's also the fact that I don't let her sleep in my bed. Actually, she started to get a little cold towards me from that moment on, and I'm very clear about that. After all, it's definitely a hurtful thing for a girl to be rejected by a boy to sleep in his bed. But I had to do that. In fact, I had considered rejecting her 2 years ago, but I was afraid of hurting her self-esteem and wanted to wait for her to realize that we weren't really suitable for each other. As a result, it almost became the norm. Later, I'm really worried that one day I'll suddenly lose control, and then I'll be screwed. Then how will I face my adoptive parents? Forget it. She should be satisfied with humiliating me so excessively this time. Otherwise, she wouldn't have lost her temper with her boyfriend at the end. Anyway, there's only 1 month left until the college entrance exam. When the college entrance exam comes, I want to get into a school where even my family can't use any connections to get her in. Then I'll be free. She's 18 years old already. It's impossible that she still needs me to protect her, right? For years, a great beauty has been sleeping next to me. A feast for the eyes, but off limits. I've long wanted to find a girlfriend, but high school really isn't the right time for dating. High school students' minds and bodies aren't fully developed, and they're easily affected by emotional fluctuations, just like Lu Akiko. It also affects studying. The Lu family's expectation for me is to study, and I can't let them down. I had 5 stitches on my head, but otherwise I was okay, just some bruises. Back at school, I threw myself back into my studies. When people asked about my injuries, I just said I fell. Lu Akiko's desk was moved away from mine. She didn't come back to the rental apartment for lunch or dinner anymore. I didn't think much of it. Maybe she just couldn't face me. Anyway, it's the last month, and I need to seize the time, so I was happy for things to be this way. But I never expected that video of me kneeling would go viral at school, especially the way the classmates in my class looked at me changed. Lu Akiko even declared, "What's the point of you guys being so good at studying? The no you admire is just my simp." Of course, her saying that would definitely cause some dissatisfaction among the students, and some even went to argue with her. You're so much worse than Shun Haruto. You don't even qualify to be my simp. What are you getting so worked up about? Lu Akiko shouted. Akiko, Haruto is at least your brother. How can you treat him like that? My friend Zhang Yaoyong advised. Nuff. He's just an orphan, a country bumpkin. What right does he have to be my brother? But your parents adopted him after all. My dad adopted him just because he felt sorry for him and to boost the reputation of my Lu group. No matter how good his grades are, how outstanding he is, he's still just a dog of the Lu family. The person was about to continue speaking, but Lu Akiko interrupted impatiently. Are you going to keep yapping? Come talk to me when you can outscore him. Damn it, Akiko, you have terrible grades yourself. What right do you have to say such things? Zhang Yaoyong said angrily. Hearing this, Lu Akiko suddenly became ferocious because this sentence hit her most sensitive spot. She ordered me to hit Zhang Yaoyong. When I stood there without moving, she started hitting me, kicking and punching. In the end, she even wanted to slap me, but I reached out and grabbed her hand, saying, Akiko, stop it. Let me slap you, and after I'm done, I'll stop. Lu Akiko looked at me with a face full of hostility. I let go of her hand. She slapped me hard in front of the whole class and left. Zhang Yaoyong and the others came up to apologize. I touched my burning face, explained things to them. and then casually started studying. Lu Akiko's behavior left me confused. I let her humiliate me, vent her emotions, and try to keep my distance from her as much as possible to avoid upsetting her. But she's still not happy. What does she need to be satisfied? Some boys in school started openly mocking me. Before, they thought I was good at everything, a top student, and I was Lu Akiko's sworn brother, so they had some respect and tried to curry favor with me. Now that this has happened, they all despise me. Soon the video also spread outside the school. Some people even fabricated rumors that I was deeply in love with Lu Akiko and that I was willing to be her simp without any principles, even knowing that she had a boyfriend. They said I wanted to go from an adopted son to a son-in-law, inherit the Lu family's fortune, and become a real young master. I'm speechless. I have no interest in the Lu family's fortune. I'm good to Lu Akiko because I'm repaying her kindness. Of course, because I really acted like a simp, I have nowhere to say it, and who would believe me if I did? As a result, my reputation got worse and worse. I wanted to talk to her, but she ran off as soon as class was over, not giving me a chance at all. I really don't understand why Lu Akiko has to treat me this way. I've been nothing but good to her. If it weren't for the age difference, I would say I treat her like a daughter. A week before the college entrance exam, my parents finally found out about the video, but it wasn't me who reported it. After all, the main characters in that video were the Lu family's daughter and their adopted son, which was quite sensational. I thought my parents would react like they did in the past, just scolding a bit and that would be it. But I didn't expect that the punishment this time would be far beyond my imagination. For the first time in many years, I saw Lu Akiko being hit. Although it wasn't particularly hard, it definitely hurt her. Lu's father was furious at home, and Lu's mother was scolding her while pointing at her head. This was much harsher than the previous accusations. I knew my parents were probably angry because of the incident where she made me kneel, which made me feel quite touched. Lu's father even wanted her to kneel down and apologize to me, just like in the video. I panicked and quickly intervened. I couldn't bear that kind of kneeling. To my surprise, when Lu's father saw me stop him, he got even angrier and took out his belt to hit her. He really meant it. I was speechless. Hadn't we already been through this? I knew that one strike of the whip would probably leave Lu Akiko bedridden for days. So even at the risk of being accidentally hit by Lu's father, I was determined to protect Lu Akiko with my life. Taking several lashes, I grimaced in pain, but managed to keep every one of them from landing on Lu Akiko. Seeing that I wouldn't budge even after taking so many lashes, Lu's father got angry. He warned Lu Akiko that she would regret her actions in the future. Lu's father left, and Lu Akiko was still crying loudly. I comforted her and took her into the room. Once inside, Lu Akiko cursed me, calling me a traitor. She even hurled insults that she hadn't used in years, like country bumpkin, and saying that without her Lu family, I'd probably be rummaging through trash cans right now. I knew she thought I had ratted her out, and she looked down on me from the bottom of her heart. I explained that it wasn't me who told on her, but I didn't refute her other words, because they were all true. Lu's mother came in with the medicine. Seeing me explaining, she quickly stepped forward to testify that it definitely wasn't me who told on her. This finally calmed Lu Akiko down a bit. In front of Lu Akiko, Lu's mother lifted my shirt to apply the medicine. The welts, some still bleeding, were a shocking sight. Oh dear, how could your father hit so hard? Haruto, you too. Why did you try to block when Akiko bullies you like this? Even if you were going to block, you should have dodged after taking one lash. Now Akiko is fine, and you took all the beating, Lu's mother said with great heartache. It's okay, Mom. Dad was just in a fit of anger. Akiko is a girl. She wouldn't be able to withstand such a furious blow. I was afraid he would regret it if he really hit her. I said to Lu's mother, Akiko, look at how your brother protected you, and you actually made him kneel outside. Your conscience has really been eaten by dogs. Lu Akiko looked at the wounds on my back and didn't say anything. She just took the medicine from Lu's mother and personally applied it to my wounds. Tears streamed down her face as she said, I'm sorry. I promise I'll never do it again, and I'll never let you get hurt again. Good, that's more like it, Akiko. Now tell us about your boyfriend, Lu's mother suddenly asked. I don't have a boyfriend, Lu Akiko said. Hearing this, I thought Lu Akiko was probably lying to Lu's mother since she had clearly admitted it in the car. Don't lie. That video of yours was taken by your so-called boyfriend. Don't even think about protecting him. Your father has already gone to find him. How dare he bully the Liu family? It seems he doesn't know who he's messing with. Liu's mother's words shocked me. I didn't expect Liu's father to personally go after that man. I knew that guy was done for, but thinking about it, it makes sense. A lady like Liu Akiko, a real heiress, would never marry someone like that. He looks like a small-time hoodlum. I'm not dating him. I'm just messing around with him. How could she be just messing around? I thought. The day I hit him, she immediately turned on me. You better be telling the truth. If anything really happened between you two, then it's not just an arm or a leg that's going to be broken. I was stunned by her words. Dad was actually going to break the guy's arms and legs just because he slapped me and kicked me? Damn capitalists, but I kind of like it. Nothing happened between us. You could break his arms and legs if you want. I wanted to hit him anyway because he bullied Haruto the other day, but I let him hit me and he wouldn't. After Liu Akiko finished speaking, she pressed down hard on my wound. The pain made me hiss and gasp for breath. Whose was the one who was bullied that day? Doesn't she have any self-awareness? I thought. Get away. Get away. You just promised you wouldn't let him get hurt, and 3 minutes haven't passed before you're stirring up trouble again. Have you forgotten that all his injuries are because of whom? Liu's mother snatched the medicine and pushed Liu Akiko away. Liu Akiko stuck out her tongue and made a face at me. I was speechless. I'd never seen such a heartless person. She completely forgot what had just happened. I really wanted to see what kind of person Liu Akiko's future boyfriend would be. I thought. Probably no one in this world could endure such dramatic and frequent mood swings from her like I could. You're spoiled by us. No one can put up with you except for Haruto. Anyone else would have been unable to protect you after being humiliated by you like that, let alone take a beating for you. And it's a man who you humiliated, Liu's mother continued. I nodded in agreement and said, Mom, you're right. She even slapped me in front of the whole class at school. Now that it was out in the open, I didn't want to hide anything from Liu Akiko anymore. I thought that making me kneel would be the end of it, but she still had to make a scene in class. I was worried that if I didn't communicate with my parents in time, she would only treat me worse and worse. Akiko, what's wrong with you? Liu's mother stood up abruptly and questioned Liu Akiko. Why did he ignore me? Where did I ignore you? I told you to hit that idiot. Why didn't you? He's your boyfriend. The last time he took you to a bar, I kicked him and you retaliated like that. Do you think I dare to hit him? It wasn't because of him. I asked you to come help, but you beat up all my friends, and you wouldn't listen to me. And when I moved the table and didn't go back to the rental house, you didn't say a word. Hey son, it's tough. I hit them because they had bad intentions. I didn't say anything because I thought you were annoyed with me. Anyway, you're wrong for not listening to me. I sighed. I decided to be frank and open. Akiko, in front of Mom today, I'm going to make things clear. Whether you make me kneel or make me say I'm your simp or even slap me in front of the whole class, I don't care. But it's not because I'm weak and incompetent, but because I'm grateful. No matter what you do, I will be tolerant because you are not only my sister, but also Mom and Dad's daughter. But you have to understand that if you keep me living like this without any dignity, then that gratitude will eventually be worn away, and I will definitely become a Shun Haruto that you don't recognize at all and disappear from your world forever. Hearing this, Mother Liu's face changed drastically, and she quickly said, Haruto, as soon as you finish the Gaokao, go and get your marriage certificate right away. The wedding can wait until after you graduate from university. But Liu Akiko quickly glared at me as if she was allowed to but I wasn't. It felt like everything I had said was for nothing. At the same time, I never expected Mom to say something like that. Was I hearing things? Haruto, don't overthink it. This was our original plan, to prevent you from going astray once you got to university. Originally, I wanted to tell you after the Gaokao to avoid adding pressure, but after everything that's happened, I'm afraid you'll have a rift with Akiko, so I couldn't help but tell you early. Haruto, Mom believes that Akiko is definitely clean. Mom will personally take her for a checkup tomorrow and give you a perfect answer, Mother Liu said to me. Mom, what are you talking about? I've always treated Akiko like a younger sister. Mom knows Akiko is playful and doesn't like studying, which has caused you a lot of trouble, but Mom can guarantee that she is definitely someone who can hold the line. The reason she's acted like that towards you is because she's been in love with you since 6th grade, but you've never caught on and wouldn't even let her sleep in the same bed, so she's always been causing trouble in front of you. Don't blame her. As for the previous incident of her going to the bar, we really didn't strictly control her. It was your parents' fault, but there will never be such things happening again, Lu Akiko said shyly, pulling on Mother Lu's clothes. Listening to what Mom said and looking at the shy look on Lu Akiko's face, I was completely stunned. I knew when Mom was talking about 6th grade, it was the time I protected her and got poked in the back of my hand by a pin and also beat up the boy who was trying to bully her. And it was also from that time on that she stopped laughing at me for being a country bumpkin. And it was from that time on that my relationship with her got better. It was also from that time on that she abandoned her parents when there was thunder and rain and instead climbed into my bed. Haruto, your intelligence is far beyond your peers, and I believe you understand what I'm saying. We will never let you live without dignity, and we will not let you marry into the family. We only want one boy to have the surname Lu. That's our only request, Mother Lu added. I swallowed hard, not knowing what to say. Haruto, don't think about these things for now. For the last 7 days, focus on preparing for the Gaokao. In the rented apartment alone, I won't let Akiko bother you. You must get a good score on the exam so that your biological parents and us can be proud of you. Mother Lu finished. I nodded in agreement. I will definitely do well on the Gaokao. Just as she said, not only them, but also my parents in heaven hope so too. But I really don't want to marry Lu Akiko at all. She's a seriously Yandere. I'm afraid of her, and I can't control her. Look at that boyfriend. Well, even if he's fake, he's at least a friend, right? Even if we take a step back, he's someone she knows and hangs out with, right? The night we fought, I kicked that guy away, and how heartbroken she was for him at the time. Now that he has no value, Dad wants to chop off his hands and feet, and she doesn't care. If I disobey her even a little and beat up her unruly friends, how does she retaliate against me? She moved the table and didn't go back to the rented apartment. I just didn't try to keep her, and she actually slapped me in front of the whole class. I also know that a woman with this kind of personality will never cheat once she has set her sights on someone. And looking at her dead look just now, it's obvious that she set her sights on me. Painful, wanna cry. Mother Lu finished applying the medicine, got up, said a few more words of comfort, and then left with Lu Akiko following her out. I got up and returned to my own room. Lying on the bed, I thought about a lot of things. My parents' arrangement. Even if I really didn't want to marry Lu Akiko, I definitely couldn't refuse, and they were sure I wouldn't refuse, so there wasn't a single word of discussion with me in what my mom just said. Ugh, could I be the legendary childhood husband? This thought suddenly appeared in my mind. My parents were, or when they had Lu Akiko, so having children was definitely a big problem for them. And the most important thing for wealthy families to consider is the issue of descendants. Lu Akiko herself isn't that great academically, and she's a girl. This issue of inheritance, if handled well, is fine, but if handled poorly, the Lu group might have to change its surname, so recruiting a son-in-law is out in the open. However, with hundreds of billions of assets in the Lu group, a son-in-law can't be chosen arbitrarily, and there are many objective factors involved. In short, they don't dare to take someone too good, they can't take someone with troublesome relatives, and they don't want someone too bad. Therefore, my appearance is their optimal choice because I have no father or mother. Not only are there no direct relatives on my father's side, but there aren't even any direct relatives on my mother's side. My grades, character, and abilities are all outstanding, and I was raised by them. And in the 6th grade, I was willing to protect their daughter even if it meant getting hurt myself, and that alone won them over. I even voluntarily learned martial arts to better protect their daughter. They were even so biased that they didn't ask questions and blindly protected Akiko, even grabbing a knife and fighting someone. And that was only in the 8th grade. What hesitation would they have about such a son-in-law? Of course, if these things were done at my current age, they might question it. But back then I was only in the 6th grade, and grabbing a knife was only in the 8th grade. Who would question the impure motives of an elementary school student or a junior high school student? I even think that even the beating my dad gave me just now was deliberate. They just wanted to see if I would still try to protect Lu Akiko after she humiliated me like that. The result was obviously yes. After Lu Akiko humiliated me, I was still able to protect her without holding a grudge. I'm afraid that after today, it will only strengthen their ideas even more. I regret it. I'm really cheap. That video wasn't wrong. I'm a simp, a complete and utter simp. In the decades to come, even after having sons and daughters, As long as Lu Akiko doesn't make a mistake that violates principles, I will never be able to leave her. I understand everything now. No wonder even when Lu Akiko and I sleep together, living together in a rented house as an unmarried couple, they don't have the slightest intention of stopping or objecting. It turns out they had already decided on me as their son-in-law long ago, and I suspect it was when the Lu family held a recognition banquet for me in the first grade. Mom suddenly told me all this a week in advance. I think it must also be because of what I said to Lu Akiko before, especially what I said about dignity. Mom suddenly realized that I wouldn't tolerate Lu Akiko without any boundaries. I just don't understand. I'm not greedy for the Lu family's money. I'm just repaying a debt of gratitude. Why would they think I would tolerate Lu Akiko without any boundaries? No wonder she goes to bars and messes around, and my parents just scold her a little and don't even take away her card. They barely even manage her studies. It turns out they're all counting on me. So she, Lu Akiko, is responsible for having fun, and I, Shun Haruto, am responsible for being miserable. My parents really love their daughter. However, I think Lu Akiko has a big problem. Actually having a crush on me in the 6th grade, but she's only suitable to be my sister, so I don't have to face her day and night. Just imagine, I'm about to take the college entrance exam, the most important time of my life. How many times has Lu Akiko stabbed me in these past 2 months? What if she becomes my wife? My life is definitely going to be ruined by her. Therefore, I must get into a top university in the national college entrance examination. With Lu Akiko's grades, even getting into a first-tier university is a stretch. That way, I'll have 4 years to wait for things to change. Of course, this change would be Lu Akiko cheating on me, preferably getting pregnant. That way, even if we get married, so what? But with her personality, once she's set on me, it's going to be difficult to get her to cheat. So I'll think about it when I get to university. I got up and started studying. Study, study, and study again. Only by getting into the highest academic institution can I make it so that Lu Akiko can't follow me. Anything is possible in those 4 years. No, I need to do a combined master's and doctoral program, adding another 5 years. 9 years is more than enough. After all, the war of resistance against Japan only lasted 8 years. Finally, my mood improved. Wow, this question is too easy. See, when you're in a good mood, it's easier to solve problems. The family chose an auspicious date and time, and Lu Akiko and I actually got our marriage certificate. We held a family dinner, attended entirely by Lu's relatives. The wedding will have to wait until after graduation. Dad explained to me that weddings are also a form of social interaction, a symbol of flexing your muscles. So we'll wait until I get to college and make more connections with powerful friends in society before holding it. See, a businessman is a businessman. Everything they do is related to profit. My late father told me that there's no such thing as a free lunch, and he was absolutely right. My room was moved to Lu Akiko's room. Mom took out Lu Akiko's medical report to show me, a complete one. Now Mom wants an incomplete one. I was both embarrassed and speechless. Mom explained that she had someone read our fortunes, and a baby born next April would be best. I was stunned to hear this and thought to myself, Mom, why don't you just say you want us to get pregnant tonight? Don't worry about that. We can always ask for leave. We never expected her to learn anything anyway. Just get a diploma. Mom, Akiko still has to go to university. You can't expect her to go to university with a pregnant belly, I advised. I was speechless. Although I knew that my parents had this attitude towards Lu Akiko, hearing it said to my face still felt a little unfair. Haruto, you are and will be the pillar of our family. Lu's mother comforted me. She was very good at reading people and immediately saw what I was thinking. After saying that, she pushed me into the room. Tomorrow I'm taking Akiko for a checkup. Haruto, don't disappoint Mom, Lu's mother said with a smile as a warning, and then she proactively closed the door. Mom is forcing me to do this. I never expected things to turn out this way. Having sex, having a child, all plans are meaningless. However, I also understand my parents. They're already in their 50s, and for them, resolving the issue of offspring brings peace of mind sooner rather than later. I turned around and saw Lu Akiko hiding completely in the blanket, only showing half of her head, her eyes looking at me innocently. Ah, damn it, that look, that innocence. I'm so embarrassed I could die. I don't even know how I got through that night, but I have to say, this thing is kind of interesting, It's quite addictive. The National College Entrance Examination results are out. I am the top scorer in the province. Luakiko didn't even pass the score line for a first-year university. Of course, it doesn't matter anymore. In mid-July, I received admission letters from Tsinghua and Peking University. What I didn't expect was that Luakiko also received an admission letter from Tsinghua and Peking University. What the hell? What gives her the right, being such a poor student? Wait, is she going to be in the same major as me again? I had a feeling. I took Luakiko's admission letter and looked at it. Damn it, it really was. I was dumbfounded. That means we'll definitely be in the same class again. I asked Dad, and Dad told me that he spent $1,000,000 for Luakiko's spot. I was stunned. But what Dad said next surprised me even more. Luakiko's scheming actually had another major reason. She knew the gap between us was too vast, so she wanted me to fail the exams too. That way, it would be easier for her father to pull strings. After all, even for top-tier universities, she wasn't sure if her father had the clout to secure a spot. Of course, in the end, her dad didn't let her down. He directly spent millions to buy land and donate a building just for that spot. What a heartwarming display of father-daughter devotion. Luakiko got pregnant. Things went as expected. Luakiko was still in the same class as me. We had been classmates and deskmates since the 4th grade, and even in college, we still were. In high school, I felt bad for her studying with a group of academic geniuses, thinking she would be under a lot of pressure. After all, she was always last in the class on every exam without fail. Actually, she really couldn't stand it back then. And this time, her classmates were 100 times better than in high school, because everyone except her was a top student from all over the country. I was a little worried about her again. She flashed her marriage certificate at me and said proudly, "Are they more powerful than my husband? Anyone who isn't more powerful than my husband isn't qualified to talk to me. Also, my future children will be born on the Tsinghua campus." Just thinking about it is awesome. Now it was my turn to be speechless. Because Mom and Dad bought land and donated a building to the school, we had a 2-story duplex apartment in the professor housing area. Mom and Dad had already redecorated the apartment in advance, and everything was prepared. The nanny also moved in early to air out the house. It's good to be rich. On the first day of school, we went from the apartment to the teaching building to complete the formalities. An upperclassman from the student union came to flirt with Luakiko. Luakiko was reaching into her pocket for something and accidentally dropped her marriage certificate on the ground. She exclaimed to the upperclassman, "Senior, I'm pregnant, and it's not convenient for me to bend over. Could you pick it up for me?" Upon hearing this, the upperclassman looked at the 3 shining characters on the red booklet on the ground, and his expression immediately froze speechlessly. I stepped forward and picked it up for her. From then on, she seemed to have opened Pandora's box, and the marriage certificate was often dropped on the ground. After enrolling, we were both very popular. I had good grades, was tall and handsome, and was good at playing basketball, and Luakiko was popular simply because she was beautiful. She didn't have any extra words when rejecting those admirers. She just flashed her marriage certificate. Of course, I was also very popular with girls. When I played basketball and girls brought me water, Luakiko's marriage certificate would suddenly fall out. When girls participated in our academic discussions, she couldn't understand, but it didn't matter. She would get up and take something out of her bag, and then the marriage certificate would fall on the table. In this way, in less than 2 months, everyone knew that we were married and that she was pregnant with my child. Only she knew the password to my QQ. My cell phone was also in her hands. She answered every call first, then gave it to me, acting like my 24-hour personal assistant. I didn't mind. She was bored during her pregnancy. If she liked to manage these things, let her manage them. I was also afraid she would get bored. Everyone else came to college to study hard and pursue a career, but we came to live as a family of 5. Luakiko gave birth to 2 children. The first was a boy, and the second were twins, a boy and a girl. Because I was still worried that the 2 brothers would be treated differently, so I only let my sister take the surname Shun. After all, that was enough. In short, I originally thought my life would be ruined by Luakiko's Yandere personality. Unexpectedly, life wasn't as bad as I imagined. It was actually quite happy. Every corner of the campus had our and our children's footprints. We played hide-and-seek and games here. We did all the beautiful things between husband and wife and between parents and children. Later, I realized that my wife being a little Yandere was just because she loved me too much and cared too much about my attitude towards her. Once I understood that, it became easy to handle. Giving her more reassurance wasn't difficult. Others might think she was strict with me, limiting my freedom, but I didn't feel restricted at all because she would accompany me wherever I wanted to go. I started handling some of the Lu Corporation's business when I was a junior in college. By the time I was in the combined master's and doctoral program, I had taken over most of the Lu Corporation's operations. After graduation, I directly became the CEO of the Lu Group. My parents also retired together to take care of their grandchildren. I became the most loyal employee of the Lu family, unable to leave for the rest of my life. And of course, I didn't want to leave. So that was Mr. and Mrs. Lu's ultimate goal.